We begin this morning with reports that the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, was given access to some of the country's most sensitive secrets. But only a year after the president overruled his chief of staff, his White House counsel, and his own intelligence experts. I have a great team here to break all of it down. But first, I want to explain exactly what's going on. There will be some people out there that are outraged about this story just because we're talking about the president and his son-in-law who's in the White House. But here's the thing. This story is not about nepotism. It is about national security. That is why we all should care. This morning, the New York Times reporting that President Trump personally ordered that Jared Kushner be given top security clearance in May of 2018, overriding the concerns of then Chief of Staff John Kelly, then White House counsel Don McGahn, and intelligence officials who had red flagged Kushner's application. In fact, the Times reports that both McGahn and Kelly were so troubled by Trump's decision that they wrote internal memos about this very incident. It was NBC that reported that Kushner's application for top secret clearance was initially rejected by the White House security specialists after an FBI background check raised questions about Kushner's family business, his foreign contacts, his foreign travel, and meetings he personally had during the campaign. NBC reported that the specialists were overruled by their supervisor. But the Times says the decision came from President Trump himself. It says, quote, in May 2018, the White House counsel's office, which at the time was led by Mr. McGahn, recommended to Mr. Trump that Mr. Kushner not be given clearance at the top secret level. But the next day, Mr. Trump ordered Mr. Kelly to grant it to Mr. Kushner anyway. The Washington Post says the president gave the order, quote, after Kushner and his wife Ivanka pressured the president to grant Kushner the long-delayed clearance. If all of this is true, it means a couple of things. First, it means that Jared Kushner now has access to the country's most heavily guarded secrets, despite officials at the highest levels of the White House and the intelligence community saying he should not. It also raises new questions for Deputy White House Press Secretary Hogan Gidley, who told the Post that the White House treats all security clearances individually, neutrally, and equally. New questions for Kushner's attorney, Abbe Lowell, who said his client's application, quote, underwent the normal process. New question for Lowell's spokesperson, who said it was handled with no pressure from anyone. And it means new questions for Ivanka Trump, who was asked about this on ABC just 3 weeks ago.
The president had no involvement pertaining to my clearance or my husband's clearance. Zero.
What were the problems early on?
There weren't any.
So no special treatment?
No.
And it means new questions for the president himself, who told the New York Times he had nothing to do with any of this. Listen.
Do you tell General Kelly or anyone else in the White House to overrule security officials, the career?
No, I don't think I have the authority to do that. I'm not sure I do, but I wouldn't do it. Jared's a good. I was never involved with the security.
I want to bring in New York Times White House correspondent Annie Carney, who co-wrote today's article. Annie, this is some extraordinary reporting. Help us understand this. The president, he has the authority to give this kind of order. So why wouldn't he just admit it?
That's the biggest takeaway here. That's the biggest question. No one is doubting that he has the authority to give a top secret security clearance to whatever aide he wants to. So why didn't he just say, Jared Kushner is my guy. This is who I want dealing as my top aide in the White House. He needs clearance. End of story. Instead, they have lied about it at every single level, and the question is why? Why were they covering it up? That's one big takeaway. The other one thing that we need to remember right now while we review this story in the current moment is that Jared Kushner is the de facto chief of staff. Mick Mulvaney is the first chief of staff in there who has not challenged the seniority of Jared and Ivanka, has realized that that's the way this place works, and nothing's going to change that. Jared Kushner just met with Mohammed bin Salman earlier this week abroad. He is in the middle of working on his long-awaited Middle East peace plan. So this is a high-stakes moment for Jared Kushner to have to be answering these questions about why they all tried to pretend it was a normal process when it definitely was not.
And why did so many officials not want Jared to get this clearance?
That is unclear. There have been questions raised about his clearance from day one. On his original form, he left out key meetings he had with foreign officials and with some Russians, and then he later had to amend that form and said it was just a clerical error, no harm, no foul. There have been questions raised from the beginning about the meetings that he's had and connections with his family's business and foreign governments, but we don't know exactly what the FBI and the CIA, what their hesitations were about granting this clearance to him, but we know that they raised them and that there was some concern about granting him this top secret TSSCI clearance.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.